Thanks, Governor. That was great.
Here, I want to give you one of my lions, Dan. I worked really hard on it.
I'll treasure it forever. How are you?
I'm good.
Great. It's always good to see you. The conference this year talks about bridging the divide into the future together, and I talked a little bit as I introduced you to talk about the really great things that have worked in a bipartisan way over the last few years. But everybody wants more, and it's a lot of things that need to get done. How does the bipartisanship continue as we move forward with a lot of projects that still have to be done?
Yeah. We've got a lot of important things we have to accomplish. And as we think about the needs of our economy, the needs of our people, the mutual goals of growing our population and diversifying our economy and strengthening that, these are not inherently partisan issues, but it feels like everything becomes partisan kind of in this environment. And people, the average person who is just trying to pay their grocery bill and get their kids off to school and get to work on time doesn't care about partisan squabbles. They just want us to deliver. They want access to affordable housing and health care. They want to make sure that their kids are getting the education they need. They can drink the water coming out of their tap. I mean, these are the fundamentals. And that's why I try to stay focused on those things, because I think that's where we can find common ground. Every other week since I've been governor, I host quadrant meetings. And this is something I learned from my dad. When Governor Milliken was governor, he did this, hosted all four of the leaders, the Republicans and Democrats from both chambers, and talked through differences. It didn't mean they always agreed on things, but one thing I know is if you're not talking, you're never going to find common ground. So we do that, and it's not always fun, but I think it's really important that we continue to try. I do think that the people in this room have a very important role in that, in keeping us focused on solving problems and holding us accountable to that, in encouraging legislators and statewide electeds and municipally elected people alike to always stay focused on that, and when we don't, to take us into account. And I think there's a role for everyone here, but it's very challenging in this environment. I think some of those numbers that Sandy shared with regard to the Shuba poll that the chamber did are really disturbing, and tells me that we, all of us, more than ever, have to lean in here and be a part of supporting our democracy. Can you imagine that we have to say we've got to convince almost 30% of our population that democracy is the best form of government? But it's kind of where we are right now, and it's a very concerning trend, and I think we all can play a role.
And I guess that raises the question. Can you hear me? Well, we're consistent. I think that leads us to the question.
Oh, here they come.
There is a 2 or 3 year period of time that you have in your job as governor. It's hard to believe, we talked about it off stage. You're 6 years, almost 6 years into your governorship, but there's a lot of work to be done. And on that point, what are the half a dozen or so, or 2 or 3 things that you think about that it would be great to get done over the next couple of years?
Well, there are, right now, the legislature, we've got another month before the budget's due, and I think we've got a real opportunity when it comes to economic development. There have been some interesting solutions that have been put on the table around transit as well. These are issues that have vexed us. These are issues that the Growth Council identified as really important to growing our population. I would love to see us be successful on that. I'm not endorsing a particular plan at this juncture, but I think I'm very encouraged by what I've seen come out of the legislature or be introduced into the legislature recently. I still would love for us to land a big fab when it comes to, a potential CHIPS opportunity. We're in competition, and growing our defense sector, I think, is something that is a real natural extension of our expertise and opportunity. And then, I know that there's a lot of orange barrels, and you tell me how much you love them, you're welcome. But we still haven't done a long-term infrastructure solution. We haven't, despite all the work you see happening, and that's something that I remain committed to getting done. It doesn't get easier or cheaper or until we actually have a longer-term solution. So that's a part of it too.
Awesome. And it is kind of, as you watch, and all the things that the collective has been done around transportation and the roads, people are smiling that you get all the barrels up, and then it's, I got to sit in traffic, but we need to get the roads fixed. So that means something must be working okay. So that's good. You've made a real focus in your administration around clean energy, which is a long-term, very important issue for America and the world, for that matter. And do you want to talk a little bit about that moving forward, on what your thoughts are over the next 2 or 3 years?
I appreciate that. I'm really proud of what we were able to get done. We worked with our utilities, we worked with labor, we worked with environmentalists. This isn't a package that one group drove. We worked together to make it happen. And I think that Michigan is showing the world that you can have good jobs, and there is an important role for our traditional utilities and advance, our American energy created by Americans. It's so important for our homeland security. And that's why bringing Palisades back online, looking for partners to do that, it took an incredible amount of work. My team, between Joanne Halls and Trish Foster, the amount of work that went into trying to make sure that we had a real plan to bring that back online, it's crucial if we're going to meet our clean energy goals. We've got to be successful here. And so I'm really grateful that so many different partners came together to make this clean energy package happen. It's the right thing to do, but it's also crucial for our homeland security, for supporting industry, for meeting the needs of Michigan business and Michigan people.
That's great. That's awesome. As a grandfather of 4, that are 3 of them in the public school system in Michigan, various places, you've been direct, forthright, and active in public education and what needs to be done, what's being done, and then moving forward, to make us a better state in that phase. Talk about education a little bit from your perspective of the importance of where we need to go in education, really from pre-K all the way through higher ed, because it's a game changer for any state, including Michigan.
I think one of the things that came out of the Growing Michigan Together Council work was that if we could have universal pre-K, it really would give every child in Michigan the advantage of starting kindergarten, being ready to learn. That sets you up for lifelong wealth and health on a trajectory that is really important. And we know if we could even start younger would be ideal, but let's get to universal pre-K first. But extending it into 2 years beyond high school is breaking down the barrier of that. For many people in our state, $8,000 to go to community college, we've got the greatest system around, is a complete barrier.
Right.
If we could make that a foregone conclusion, we would have more X-ray techs, the people that do the hard work where we're looking to find employees. I'm looking at Bob Ryan, he's going, give me X-ray techs, right? Yeah. But I think that it's, that if we could do this, we'd be the first state in the nation to have pre-K through 14 available to every Michigander. It really is a potential game changer for us. Now, we have a lot of work to do to ensure that we're improving outcomes for kids. And that's why that pre-K is so important, to improve our literacy rates. And there's a lot of work to do there, but we're making strides. Recovering from a pandemic, I think, is an enormous hurdle. But I think that these investments, the making it easier for people to go into teaching, alleviate the financial barrier and the debt that so many carry, all of these are working toward that same goal.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is a game changer. And, you think about community college, for example, of kids that aren't ready. If you can relieve that barrier financially, but also it's amazing how many people grow up in that 2 or 3 year period from 18 to 21 and through that system. And it is a game changer. So we're looking forward to that. Now, I have to do this because if I didn't, you would all look at me like, yeah, he needs to retire. But everybody, you've written a book that's out shortly, True Gretch. And so, which is kind of, I think kind of cool. So tell us about it.
Well, it's not as heady as the book that you wrote about sharing the balance of power, but it is one of the questions I get the most, traveling our own state or elsewhere for that matter, is how do you stay positive when so much heavy stuff has come your way? How do you stay optimistic when you're dealing with threats and pandemics and floods and all the other things? 28 recall attempts. You weren't counting, but I did. When you have to deal with all of that, how do you stay positive and optimistic? And, this is a heavy time. And I think the next 5 months is going to be heavy. I mean, we heard Paul Ryan and we heard Chuck Todd, and, it's a heavy time. And so I thought, this is maybe an opportunity to put a little light out in the world. So it's 10 chapters. It's not a self-aggrandizing memoir to get ready to run for president, no matter what anyone says. It's 10 chapters. It's a quick read. It's 10 different lessons I've learned in my life that I've used over the last 6 years to stay positive and to stay focused. There's a lot of self-deprecating humor, so at least maybe you'll get a laugh at my expense. No dogs or goats were killed in the making of this book.
Good one.
But it's that. It's just to put a little light out into the world. And if it gives someone some inspiration or a laugh, that's what it's all about.
Awesome. And we're looking for you.
And you can pre-order now.
Middle of July, right? Is that what
I think July 9th, yeah.
Okay, cool. That is, I think everybody is looking forward to reading it. And you told me it's a quick read, and you'll enjoy it, so I believe you. But this has been a pleasure for me. I just have to say, this is the 5th time we've done this together, and it comes from a lifetime of really fun stuff and stuff that have made a difference. It's been a pleasure working with you. We're not going away, but it's a different change for me, and I really appreciate your professionalism, who you are as a person, most importantly, but also who you are as a governor. I've been through a lot over the, I even remember shaking Governor Milliken's hand, so it is a while. And you are a great leader, and I appreciate that, and it's been great to do this. And thanks for this today.
Well, thank you. Stay put. Well, thank you. And before you and I exit the stage, I want to invite Sandy Baruah to come back out and join us back on stage. Thank you, Sandy.
So, I cannot think of a more appropriate way to close out the 2024 Main Stage Mackinac Policy Conference programming with a tribute and a thank you to the man who has probably meant more to the Detroit Regional Chamber and to this conference than anyone has ever meant to the Detroit Regional Chamber over its 130-year existence, Dan Loepp. Now, the governor and I both went all out and framed things for Dan, and we're both going to say just a handful of words. But as Dan mentioned just a few minutes ago, Dan was on the search committee that brought me from Washington to Detroit, and obviously Sandy Pierce was, and several others. And Dan has been just a constant reminder to me of what greatness looks like. What does it look like as a corporate leader? What does it look like to be a community leader? And what Dan and Amy do so quietly is their philanthropic work. And so many people, in fact, most people don't know all that they do. They see Dan as the CEO, they see Dan engaged in big things, but it's the quiet philanthropy, the quiet community leadership that he provides that has been so critical. And the one thing that I think attracted me to Dan, and I think may have attracted Dan to me when I was considering this job and the board was considering me, was that this ethos of collaboration. We have, in Michigan, so many assets that the governor so eloquently talked about, but we still don't have enough assets to waste them. And Dan has been a champion of doing things better, doing things together, doing things collaboratively, and not duplicating. So Dan, thank you for everything that you've done for us at the Chamber, for our state, our community, our business community, and for me. Thank you, Dan. Governor?
I'm so enjoying, I think I just broke this. Oh, it looks okay. I didn't. It just made a...
Expensive frame there, huh?
Hey, state government, we're using your tax dollars wisely.
Yeah. Yes, I can.
I just want to add a couple of thoughts. When I was at Michigan State University, my dad, in his wisdom, said, go down and do an internship at the Capitol. Learn a little bit about state government, because so few people understand state government. And I had the opportunity to do that. And when I graduated from state, I just kind of fell in love with public policy, in large part because I got to know people like Dan Loepp. Dan was chief of staff for Curtis Hertel, co-speaker of the House. It was, during that shared power time, an incredible opportunity to learn about state government with 55 Democrats, 55 Republicans, cobbling out an agreement of how they were going to work together. And when Dan hired me on staff, I was just so grateful to have an opportunity to see it up close and personal, and I was scared to death of him because he was the chief of staff and I was just a lowly new hire. But I've learned so much from how he treats people, to how he works across the aisle, to the putting together a vision and a team. And I think these are lessons that I deploy every single day as governor of this state. And I think about my first office was in a tiny little safe in the Capitol, which I shared with a refrigerator. But I left and went to law school, and Dan was the one who called me up when my state representative was term limited out, and he said, I think you should think about running. And I had never thought about running for office. So many women, this is a similar story. It was someone else who encouraged them, and it was you who did that for me, Dan. And so every step of the way throughout my career, I've been able to get sage advice from my friend Dan Loepp. He, I think, has been a tremendous leader in every iteration of the many chapters he's had in his career of public service. And I'm just so grateful for your mentorship and for your friendship. And I'm happy for you and Amy and the family and what the next chapter looks like. And I'm grateful for everything that you've done for me and my family and for the state of Michigan.
Thanks, Governor. Thank you very much.
The floor is yours, once they're done clapping.
Yeah, hand me a mic and I'm not going to talk. Thank you, Sandy and Governor. It's, what do you say? It's been a great ride, but you only get great rides because you're amongst great people. You don't do any of this alone. You can't. and the people that I've met through the chamber. I grew up quick in the chamber because I came out of politics, and my first year as CEO, Dick Plaus put me on the executive committee of the chamber, and then the next year I was the conference chair, and I learned so much and met so many people and learned so much about business and how business works that it was really helpful. And then my time in government, and Tim Walberg was here earlier. Congressman Walberg was part of the 55-55. He was a member of the House from Tipton, where he's from. And so he was part of that too. And that was a phenomenal experience for everybody that was in it. And, you know, it's just been a great run. And to be able to go out on your own terms I'm very fortunate to do that. We're not going anywhere. Our roots are in Michigan. You know, Amy and I will be here, except when we go to Florida. But don't tell anybody. But, you know, we're Michiganders. We're going to be here and be part of it. It'll be a different role, but I really appreciate it. And the chamber's been like home to me. This is 20, almost 25 years, and it's been a home to me. The people have been great, the staff, everybody. And I've, you know, the governor said it better than I do, we've had a great relationship, and I've learned from her, and I think vice versa. And Sandy and I come from a little bit different part of politics, except not really, because
Not anymore.
and you and I are sort of in the middle, a little bit on both sides, and we have tremendous conversations. It's been a ball to be around Sandy. We don't always agree, but we have fun talking, so it's cool. And you've done such a job as a leader here at the chamber. And so to everybody here, thanks for being here. I'm fortunate, and it's been a blast, and more to come. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the governor of the great state of Michigan, and Dan Loepp.
Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support also provided by the Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit PBS.
DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit PBS. Among the state's largest foundations committed to Michigan-focused giving, we support organizations that are doing exceptional work in our state. Learn more at dtefoundation.com.
We help organizations find their voices through what they do and who they impact. We are VVK PR and Creative, a Detroit agency telling the stories of critical issues affecting the big picture and the small moments. Stories at Skyline Heights and on-the-ground influence. We lead with relationships first, solutions always, and with diversity as our compass. VVK PR and Creative.
Nissan Foundation, and viewers like you.